I'm going to speak about women, why and how, and I will explain to you why there's the why and the how in, and I want to explain to you what women in Europe need and what they want. Most of you know me. I'm a journalist and sexologist. I'm working in the field of HIV for almost 30 years now. I'm co-founder of an NGO in Germany, and I'm a member of many entities that are presented here in the room. And besides that, I don't think I have to declare any conflict of interest. But if you want to know what the ICRSE, the acronym, the last one that is named, I don't know if anybody else from the International Committee of the Rights of Sex Workers is in this room, so please bear in mind, women are sex workers too sometimes. I'm quoting this from the WHO and the from the European AIDS Clinical Society, the EACS. PrEP has been recommended for all populations at substantial risk of HIV infection. And this is the first thing where many people think, well, women in Germany, substantial risk? Well, so we'll find out. And women in Europe, as you are all pretty much aware, are living in very diverse situations. And if you are looking for something that is equally right for all of them, we end up to state that whether in Sweden, where I'm based with my Malmö University, or way down in, let's say, Greece, where's Maria, we all face still patriarchic systems. If that's one thing that joins us all, that's the one thing, besides being a cis, a trans, or whatever woman. We are living with very diverse risk settings and behaviors. We have already been talking about migrant communities, moving communities, and I want to remind you on this point of my presentation that most migrant communities, at least I know that's true for France and for Germany, they do not bring the HIV with them from their home countries, but they acquire them within the first few weeks and months of their stay in our European countries. So we have the African diaspora, we have in Germany and in many other countries also women from refugee communities. We have sex workers, injecting drug users, women in prison, often forgotten population, but still there. And of course cis and trans, and the German star behind trans means that this is not all. I'm giving you some numbers. I don't know if you can read it, but when it comes to presentations like this and when it comes to advocacy for women, most people would say, well, women in Europe are a minority. At least in Germany, they are less than 20% of all people living with HIV. And even if you can't read it, if it's too little, 1/3 of all new diagnoses of HIV in Europe as a whole are in women. This is numbers by ECDC from 2016. With the young women aged 15 to 24 accounting for almost the half, for 46% of new infections in Eastern Europe and Central Asia. The second number I want to share with you is that sex between men and women is the second most commonly reported mode of transmission after MSM sex, accounting for 32% of HIV diagnoses in the European Union and the European Economic Area. And first, heterosexually acquired HIV remains the main mode of transmission in 1/3 of our countries, including France, Italy, Luxembourg, Portugal, Norway, and Sweden. Trans women, I'm sure for the most of you this is not new, have a prevalence rate 49 times higher than the general population. In Germany, women living with HIV are a minority. I already mentioned that, below 20%. In Russia, where's the Russian? I've seen them, yeah. Women are up to 50% by now. And in the UK, 47% of women were diagnosed late, what we call late diagnosis. And if you have doubts about these numbers, this is the slide I have taken it from. It's the ECDC slide for 2016. And even if you cannot really read the sublines of the graphics, it's very worth looking at it, because the green half of the circles is the sex between men and women. And so if you need numbers, go there and get them. I also want to remind you that safer sex techniques, for the first time, PrEP allows women to use something on their own independent way. You don't have to negotiate condom use with a partner. Never, not a female condom, not a male condom. You just take your pill like you do with a contraception pill or with an implant, and you're safe. So this is for the first time something that's available, and even though the Piperine ring is under review, then we have not a vaccine yet, but PrEP is there. Science and research show that PrEP is reducing risks of HIV acquisition across the types of sexual exposure, across sexes. It works in vaginas and in anuses, and it's working with any regimen scheme that we know. And I'm very happy that we just heard about the comparison with PEP. We know PEP works, and it works even after it's so, well, it's something to discuss about intermittent PrEP. How would women get PrEP? We have some research. We don't have enough research, but I was very happy to be part of the Flash PrEP Europe survey conducted by Aid and Rosemary and Richard. They are here. We have the PrEP impact trial, and I'm glad that the Sophia Forum is working at their advisory board. And we had a meeting last May in London where we have come up with a consensus paper focusing on women. So what turned out is, who would need PrEP? It's always said that those people having a higher risk in sexual behavior, example, condom-less receptive sex, having an HIV-positive partner or partners, or having partners of unknown HIV status, or at a high risk of HIV, and it is discussed about the risk that is indicated by STI diagnoses. Who would know better about the risks than the person itself? So let's inform the person what we know about from studies, and then each individual can decide whether he or she or they are at risk or not. I highly recommend to you to grab out, I don't know, Rosemary, if you have any leaflets left of the Flash PrEP Europe. Yeah, they are in behind there. And the most important data I took out of it for my presentation is that data from 648 women showed what we call moderate knowledge. Moderate meaning a bit better than nothing at all. So it's a bit euphemistic, I think. So, yeah, but 13%, however, have the feeling or indicated that they are at high objective risk. Think about that. Going for PrEP in Europe, I want to mention this meeting from May last year, and I recommend to you to look this consensus statement up in the internet, because this has been made by the organizations that are up there, like AVEC, Clinic, NUM, AIDSMAP, the Terence Higgins Trust Nut, and many, many other entities and organizations all over Europe have signed it. So maybe if you haven't used it yet, go ahead. I have brought this slide, and you may not be able to see it from behind, but you see two columns. These are numbers from 2016, 4 years after PrEP has been accredited by the FDA in the US. And you see the left column, that is women at lifetime risk of acquiring HIV, summing up to 450,000, almost 500,000 women in the US. And 4 years after the FDA has made PrEP available in the States, they were only 4% of women using it. So thinking of Germany and of the European Union, when was the EMA allowing PrEP? 2 years ago. So we have 2 more years not to fall into a gap like this. It might have changed in the US meanwhile, but there's not 2 columns at the same level yet. Let's be better than the States. I have brought 3 case studies, or let's better call them examples, about women that I have encountered while I did research on women who could benefit from PrEP. And the first case is Rosie. She's from the US. I found her in the internet. She's working in Minneapolis as a nurse, and her partner is based in the Caribbean. She goes there for a few months a year. She's not able to negotiate with him about condoms. She doesn't even want to. She thinks this is not appropriate. But being in the US, she had the privilege of knowing PrEP and taking PrEP. And the other 2 girls, Mel is a teacher in Bavaria. I found her doing research for my magazine. He has a partner from an African high prevalence country. They both want a baby. She wasn't sure if he's HIV positive. She wasn't sure if she could talk with him about being positive or not. But she wanted to protect herself and her baby. So PrEP would be an option. And by the way, she's having her baby by now, and the baby is healthy. And Joy is a student part-time sex worker from Bulgaria in my home state of North Rhine-Westphalia. Sex workers have a strong bias about taking PrEP or not, because some say, I don't want to be pushed and forced to take PrEP because my clients want condomless sex. But on the other hand, I can earn money, much more money, if I offer condomless sex. So think about these examples, and I'm coming to shorten up my presentation because I see that my friends from the UK are waiting to have their 5 minutes. So this is what you get, how you get PrEP in Germany. You need a prescription after being checked for being HIV negative, after having a healthy kidney function, and being, of course, checked up for, well, not of course, there's a question mark behind being pregnant. There's no guidelines yet about what happens. We know that Truvada is very much okay with pregnancy, but we don't know yet if it works with PrEP in a healthy body, in a body where no HIV is already active. So there's a lot of questions that have to be answered. The one thing that my presentation should end up with is that we have information about women to become pregnant. That means they are having condomless sex, mostly. It's a logical conclusion. And therefore, one of my demands is that we include information on PrEP in each family planning, each sexual health counseling for women, where women act up. Nick has provided this nice picture up here from one of the demonstrations, one of the activists. So if anybody tells you there's no female activism, no women are active in the PrEP movement, they are just lying. Show them the pictures, ask the PrEPters. There are women advocating for PrEP too. And I would have liked to bring you some numbers from our German pharmacists. And I have been doing some research about how many women have already bought PrEP through German pharmacies. And I found 3 numbers, the number of 3 women. This is not representative yet, but it is, given the fact that we have heard yesterday between 1,500 and 3,000 men taking PrEP in Germany, 3 women are definitely not enough. So, PrEP is already contributing to the reduction in HIV incidence among gay men and other MSM in parts of the US and Europe. I'm sure it can do the same for women. And thus, it should, of course, be included in any sexual and reproductive health and rights service, delivery, and advocacy. The answers to the question how and why is women need to know that PrEP is out there. This is the first thing. Remember the findings from the Flash PrEP survey. They didn't know, it was moderate. So they need to know PrEP is out there. They need to know it works. Don't believe all the saying it doesn't work in vaginas. It does. And women have anal intercourse, by the way, as well. Some tell so. Women need to know whether they are at risk and whether they are eligible for PrEP. And if so, women need to know where to get PrEP. Is it my gynecologist? Or do I have to a gay place, like some checkpoints? Where do I get my PrEP? Can I afford it? You know, we all know that in a patriarchal system, the economical situation of women is normally not as strong as a man's economical situation. And please make sure that women have the right to make informed choices about your sexual health. I'm thanking AVEC, I'm thanking Sophia Forum, I'm thanking the European AIDS Treatment Group who made me come here and who made me see the US Summit last year. And I'm looking forward to, please come up to my colleagues from the Sophia Forum to add to. Thank you for listening to me.